Hello class. Today we're going to cover Chapter 10, Political Order, Disorder, and Social Control. Who decides? And that's a key thing because political order is about legislating laws and policies that the people of the society have to live by. For the last few thousand years, we've had this dominance hierarchy, and those in the elite ruling class set the laws to support their rule, to support their elitist position in society. The idea of a democracy is to give that control back to the people. That's the idea of a democracy. Today we're going to look at politics, power and authority, forms of political organization and leadership, rank and stratification, disorder and social control, external relations, war and peace, summary. Let's get to it. Politics. What exactly is politics? Defining what is meant by the word politics is a difficult problem because people tend to define it based on their own perspective, what their culture considers political. Also, what their level in culture, in that culture, seems politically correct. So when you have different classes, different castes in society, you have people with different access to resources that are needed to live. Politics legislates that. The anthropological view. Politics equals distribution of power. Anthropologists study the same issues and concepts as political scientists, government, power, authority, and economy, but across cultures. What is the commonality of politics across cultures? And it's the ability to control resources in one's own interest. Power, the ability to influence people or cause them to do things they would not otherwise do. There's two types of power, coercive power and persuasive power. And then there's authority, the exercise of legitimate power, the right to rule invested by members of the community in its rulers. Authority is the investment by the members of a community in their leaders in giving them that authority. Dimensions of stratifications, value systems. Power, the ability to control resources in one's own interest. Wealth is the accumulation of material resources or access to the means of producing these resources. And prestige is social honor or respect. The idea, what do we give prestige for? What do we give social honor for? What do we give respect for? The lady on the top of this picture on the right, sitting on the step. Do we give her a lot of honor, a lot of respect, even though she's an elder? Or do we give this younger real estate agent much more honor and respect? Do we give the workers at Amazon more honor or respect? Or do we give Jeff Bezos more honor and respect? The wealth accumulation is a very serious matter in the United States of America and in capitalism in general, because it is in that monetary wealth that one can bring resources to them, and that's the power we're talking about. What are the symbols of wealth and prestige and class in our culture? Well, I'm sure you're thinking of a few. If we were in class, I'd certainly love to hear them. But I'm thinking of brand name clothes, the type of car you drive, where you live, how much you make, where you work. All these things are symbols of wealth and prestige, are symbols of your class. And what do they mean? How do they influence thoughts about someone? When we see that homeless person trying to get change at the freeway entrance, what kind of honor or respect do we give them? Do we look at them as an individual failure, or do we see the social system that creates poverty and homelessness as part of a design to accumulate wealth at the top. Do you view them as more human or capable or less human and capable depending on the symbols that they possess? Political organization is about power. Political organization refers to the ways in which power is used in all societies so they can maintain themselves collectively over time. The power to maintain the status quo. And if the status quo is very divided, the people at the top have absolute access and power over the rest of the people at the bottom not getting by. That's a political organization that has to be legislated. And the people in that society need to see that as normal and the best we can do. That's the power of politics in our lives. That's the power of culture in our lives. Political ideology. Shared values and beliefs that legitimate power and authority in a particular society. What kind of values do we hold? What kind of beliefs do we hold? And are those congruent? Or do they create cognitive dissonance? All men are created equal. But some men aren't men. They can be slaves. Women don't deserve the right to vote. To this day, we are, in the United States of America, we are still dealing with minority groups. The political ideology that says they don't deserve power over their own lives. They can't handle it. They're too dumb. They're too lazy. They're too immoral. A political ideology may be widely shared throughout a society, though it may not be held by everyone. One difference among types of political organization is the degree to which they rely on coercion or consensus to achieve social order. Consensus is, of course, the vote. Coercion is not. Law is found in every society. In complex societies, functions of law belong to legal institutions, such as the courts. In simple societies, law is enforced by kinship. That's why kinship is so important. Law addresses conflicts that would otherwise disrupt community life. And this is very true. Resolving conflicts. Two political processes involving conflict: rebellion and revolution. Rebellion is the attempt of one group to reallocate power and resources within an existing political structure. Revolution is an attempt to overthrow the existing political structure and put another type of political structure in its place. Settling disputes. A dispute may be settled in two ways. Negotiation. The parties of the dispute reach an agreement with or without the help of a third party. Adjudication. An authorized third party issues a binding decision that the groups that are negotiating must live by. Disorder and social control. Social order. A process involving a structure of mechanisms to ensure that people do not violate the society's accepted form of behavior. Informal means of social control: social pressures, ridicule, gossip, ostracism. Formal means: laws, consistent systems of sanctions as well. Social control: ways societies deal with abnormal behavior and conflict. Gossip and ridicule is key. Fear of witchcraft accusations, similar to the idea of going to hell. Avoidance of someone that is disrupting the community. Supernatural sanctions. Again, the idea of witchcraft, of hell, of someone interfering in your life because you're wrong and doing something from the other realm. Punishment. Fines, imprisonment, torture, and death. Loss of status. Exile. Loss of the right to vote or be an active member. Being labeled an adulterer, a criminal, a heretic. Internalized controls, self-imposed by individuals. The things we learn growing up, the things we take in our experiences that say this is how we live here, this is how we view the world. These are self-imposed by individuals because they've learned them in their youth and they carry them on as adults. Rely on such deterrents as shame, fear of divine punishment, or magical retaliation. Although bands and tribes rely heavily upon them, they are generally insufficient by themselves. They are part of our enculturation process. They are part of our enculturation process. And most important, their most important form of conformity. Externalized controls. Laws. When you get a ticket, when you're arrested. But also, positive sanctions reward appropriate behavior, like this diploma on the left, and negative sanctions punish behavior, like the handcuffs on the right. Social stratification or differentiation. The relative access individuals and groups have to basic material resources, wealth, power, and prestige. That is what social stratification is. Stratification systems, closed systems, open system. A closed system is a system of stratification based on primarily on ascription. You're born into it. The caste system is an excellent example. So is the race system. A made-up system like class and caste that you're born into, and that is hard to move out of that place that you're given in life upon birth. An open system is a system of stratification based on achievement. That's the facade of what we have in this country. That if you work hard and move up the ranks, everything will be just fine. But it doesn't always happen that way. Class systems. A class is a category of a person with about the same opportunity to obtain economic resources, power, and prestige, and who are ranked high and low in relation to each other. There are possibilities for movement between the classes, or social strata, called social mobility, although there are also constraints to mobility. So the idea in a class system, as opposed to a racial system or a caste system, is that in a class system you can move up to the next class, maybe 2 classes. Social mobility. In the United States, you might think that we have the highest social mobility in the world because of our wealth. Actually, we do not. You can see in this graph here, the United Kingdom, the United States, pretty low on the scale. France, Germany, Sweden moves up from there. Canada, Finland, Norway, and Denmark all have higher social mobility. And what are Sweden, Canada, Finland, Norway, and Denmark? They're socialist-based societies where the needs of the people are met. It doesn't stop capitalism, but it brings the taxes back to the people, the taxes that we pay back to the people to be used for our security.